Hi, everyone, and welcome to AB Conversations, where we will help you CFP your way out of it. A podcast where you get into the minds of a couple certified financial planners on how we think and feel about everyday financial planning questions and what should really matter most to you. A healthier financial life starts now. What's up, Adam? How are you today?
Wonderful. How are you?
I'm excellent. So good. So very good. Today, we're going to dive into a topic that I would say every retiree is going to want to figure out, right? Social Security benefits. So a lot to dive into here, but we're really going to focus on, I think, like claiming strategies, because that's often the we're going to get. Do I take money as soon as possible at 62? Do I wait until full retirement age? Is it all the way to 70? So we can dig into whatever you want today, right? World is your oyster, Adam. Numbers, emotions. Dreams.
So for anybody who's listened to us before, here's the great news. Social Security, it's extremely black and white. There's very simple answers. We're going to get right to the point. Just kidding. Like everything, like everything else, it feels like the answer is often, well, it depends, and it's very situational. So yeah, I think Social Security, you said it. Most people, I think there's very few exceptions, which we've had some of these where, people have a government pension, for example, may not have paid into Social Security and therefore don't have the access to the system. But the vast majority of people that are going to retire, this is a decision that needs to be made. And it is a big one. 90%, there's a study, 90% of retirees are relying on Social Security in some way. And at least 40% rely on it for more than half of their income. So something to get right. And there again, I don't even love that framing because that makes it sound like there's a wrong answer. It really is a sliding scale of maybe not so great to the most efficient or kind of maximizing the idea. But often it just comes down to longevity.
Yeah, we're going to talk about a lot of factors. I'm glad you started there because we're like many things in planning, we're operating with certain assumptions. And one of the biggest assumptions is how long you're going to live, right? So you and I know we've said it in the conference room, we've said it in meeting with clients. That's the biggest variable, right? Longevity. You tell us when you're going to pass away, we know we can then do the math to say here's when you should select. But I think there's going to be some other things we'll talk about. So if we kind of chronologically, about a third of people will file for Social Security right away at 62. I think there are maybe multiple reasons why people might consider that, but let's just start at the beginning. They need the income, right? Whether they wanted to retire early, decided to retire early, maybe it was job loss. I hope it's not because of a lack of savings, but let's be honest, some people just need that income and go all the way back to why Social Security was created and why this system was created a long time ago. It is a needs-based system. It was to create some sort of foundation for people to have a retirement.
Yeah, exactly. And you said it, right? The factors there, or maybe the reasons for filing early. One of the ones that we hear the most commonly is, I paid into this system. I want to get something back out. You hear all of the stories or the articles and all the headlines multiple times a year of, when the Social Security Trust Fund is theoretically going to be insolvent or the payments going into it aren't going to cover the payments going out. So that is one that I think we run into a lot, is just people's personal feelings on, I don't know how long I'm going to live, so I'm going to get something out. Even if I'm not maximizing my lifetime benefit, I don't care. I want to get something for what I put into the system. That's a huge one.
It may also be just health or longevity concerns,
for sure.
which is why one of the calculations, one of the things that we'll want to do for people, if maybe they don't need to take it right now, but they are having that question, you're like, but yeah, should I delay? We'll do what we call a break-even analysis. And that's just basically saying if you're going to forego certain paychecks, let's say between 62 and full retirement age, for most people, that's 67 now. If you're going to let go of those 5 years worth of paychecks, you're doing that because your age 67 benefit's going to be higher to start. But how long do you have to live for those higher paychecks to make up for 5 years worth of paychecks that you gave up? And it's sometimes not until somebody's in their late 70s, early 80s. So that gives somebody, I think, a concrete decision on how do I feel about my health, longevity, family history, and kind of that whole idea of is delaying really worth it if I don't live past that age?
Yeah, and that's no, you said it, and we often say this, and that's the biggest unknown, right? And I think the bulk of this podcast will talk about longevity so many different times because that is one of the primary driving factors. The individual situation matters too, which we'll get into some of those details. But yeah, the math will always show,
Yeah.
assuming, right, life expectancy or that people are going to live a long and healthy life well into their 80s or 90s. The math will always say delay, delay, delay. But the reality of many situations is that may not be possible. So then what's the best next option? And that's, again, just situational. So then maybe we'll switch gears to the if claiming early, here were some of the factors. What's the benefit to delaying as long as possible? Well, number one, I think a lot of people do know this. There is a benefit. You get essentially an 8% credit, a delayed retirement credit for every year that you would delay beyond your full retirement age. So age 70 is the latest. So if you have not started your benefit by age 70, you're basically forced to start it at that point, regardless. But those increases for delaying are guaranteed inflation adjusted increases. So it's hard to beat that, but you have to have some other resources, or most people would need some other resources to be in the situation to delay and try to take full advantage of the system.
Right, because I think there are even if somebody stops working, sometimes the question for us is, okay, I
Mhm.
stopped working, but should I take Social Security right away?
Yeah.
Now I think we're bringing in a lot of different variables, like you said, on what other savings do I have available to me? Are they retirement accounts that would be taxable if you took money out? Am I working part time? We may get into some of
Yeah.
those, but I
Yeah.
think that the part that I would want to talk about here in delaying is if you are continuing to work, it probably does make sense to continue to delay because there
Mhm.
are rules on how much you can earn before you would start to lose some of the benefits or delay some of the benefits that would be coming to you. But I think
Yeah.
you are continuing to work, recognize that those are probably some of your highest earning years. And that is based on the formula here. Social Security is going to take your 35 highest years of earnings. They're adjusted for inflation. There's a weird calculation here. But you continuing to work at a higher income, probably than you were certainly inflation adjusted 30, 35 years ago, just means that
Yeah.
money is delaying giving you a higher benefit, but the math that's going into what your base benefit is going to be is going up because you have higher earnings.
Yeah. It's like a compounding benefit, right? You're getting a tailwind on both sides. So yeah, that is certainly beneficial. So then let's just stick there on that other factor of if you're going to continue to work, especially prior to full retirement age, you kind of hinted at it. There are limits on what you can earn and still collect your benefit. And for 2025, that limits around 23,000, between 23 and 24,000. Above that limit, for every $2 that you earn above that limit, $1 of your benefit is essentially held back. So for many people, if they're working full time and earning, I'll say $75,000 or more, and they're only expecting a 20 some $1,000 benefit, there's certainly a world here where you could file and really not get anything based on your earnings. So that goes back to your point. If you are continuing to work full time, it probably doesn't make sense to start Social Security while you're also working. Biggest caveat there being the full retirement age. Once you hit full retirement age, those earning limits go away. You can essentially earn as much as you want and still collect your full benefit. In the year in which you turn full retirement age, that formula for the withheld benefits changes a little bit. The income limit jumps up. The $1 held back for every $2 over. I think it's like $3 over. Then a dollar is held back, but that earning limit is much higher. So it gets a little bit more flexible the year in which you hit full retirement age. And once you hit full retirement age, the gloves are off. You have much more optionality to continue to work and receive your benefits, if that makes sense.
Yeah, work's a big one. We also will play a lot of games with just marital status. That being, you and a spouse, if there are two people in the situation, do not have to have the same file strategy. You don't need to
Mhm.
both wait till age 70 or both decide at 62. So depending on the age gap that you have, if there is one, depending on, again, work situations. We
Yeah.
want to be very thoughtful about who's claiming what and when, because survivor benefits, when one of
Mhm.
those spouses passes away, you're only allowed to collect on one Social Security. It will be the higher of the two benefits. But that does mean that maybe the higher earner, not only is their decision very important for their own benefit, but if we do project out, that does affect what that survivor benefit would be.
That's a big one that it's maybe those unintended consequences of filing early, right? It's that domino effect of I want to get something back out of this. I'm going to file early, but God forbid something happens. Now you are kind of locked into that, not only for yourself, but potentially the spouse and the survivor benefit as well. So yeah, that's a tricky one.
I probably didn't say there in this section of like marital status, there are
Mhm.
spousal benefits too.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if you want me to throw you that softball or you want me to take it.
Oh man. Well, go with
I'll
where
jump.
your head's going. Yeah.
So I think it's maybe becoming a little less common that there was just a situation where husband, wife, and I'll say it was usually the wife was more of a homemaker. Social Security
Mhm.
did provisions in there that said, well, just because you weren't out there earning doesn't mean you're not entitled to something. So
Yeah.
can be that if one spouse was earning and the other one maybe didn't have as much in the earnings category, that lower earner income, that lower earner could actually elect benefits called spousal benefits on the other one's earning history, capped at 50% of what their benefit was. So there are sometimes these games of trying to figure out, okay, what's my highest benefit that's available to me? And if it's not on my own earning history, it could be on
Mhm.
some of your spouses, although
Yeah.
does get reduced to 35% if you refile.
Going back to where I started with, it's very black and white, super simple. Yeah, there's so many of these little nuances in if this, then that. And that's really what makes it so specific to someone's individual circumstance. Because even if I'll use two like sample scenarios, husband and wife in each, they earned the same amount. One spouse worked, the other didn't, the same scenario, but in one scenario, someone wants to retire at 62, and in the other scenario, they're willing to work till 67. That can completely change the strategy that can be used for a couple because it's so hyper specific when it comes to the amount of options to claim your benefit. And then now you add in another person, right? When you have a couple, just there's just so many different pathways. I can't imagine somebody just kind of going through that just blindly on their own without some sort of feedback.
You don't even need to be married to collect on somebody else's benefit. As long as you were married to someone for 10 years,
Yeah.
if 50% of their benefits more than your own benefit, you can collect on that ex-spouse, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
There again, specific rules. But yeah, it's a great point. It's just another way to illustrate how complex what theoretically should be a relatively straightforward decision, but it's just not because there's just so many different moving pieces.
So we talked about age, work, marital status. What other factors play in here?
Yeah, one of the other big ones that I know we've talked about before is, and in your scenario earlier on, right? If somebody's going to retire and maybe not collect Social Security right away, some of that decision is based on, well, okay, but if I need to fill an income gap from somewhere, do I have the savings to make that happen? What type of savings is that coming from? How is it taxed? Is kind of really one of the main factors. If it's coming from a retirement account, maybe it's a coin flip. Again, some of that just comes down to personal preference. Would I rather start Social Security or would it? Because you could run the scenario. If I'm expecting 30,000 in Social Security benefits, but I could take $30,000 from my retirement account, all things being equal, right? Taxes being similar in either circumstance, which one is better for me in the long run? Again, tell us when you're going to pass away, and then we can tell you which strategy to go with. But the key there being, if you do have those other savings or investments to lean on, that becomes a much easier way to delay your benefits to try to maximize. But again, even just saying that as a blanket comment isn't necessarily fair because it really does matter where those dollars are coming from.
Well, and I'll take it one step further and then jump into the next topic.
Yeah.
We've still had clients that were in that situation. You could delay because I don't
Mhm.
want to down these assets. But then we've gone the other direction where somebody has claimed because they've said, look, I can't give
Mhm.
Social Security to my kids. I can give my assets to the kids. Right. So there's a
Yeah.
situation where what somebody valued played a
Sure.
huge role in that election strategy.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
I'll just briefly touch on taxes that you just shared. We would want to think about, all right, if you are going to pull from retirement accounts, what are you paying in taxes relative to what those credits would have been on Social Security? But Social Security itself, it's good for people to know part of that benefit that you're receiving from the government because you paid into this, they will hold back based off, you are going to pay taxes on that. So what you earn is going to be taxed. We've seen very low,
Mhm.
percentages. Somebody has no income, other
Right.
income. If people do
Yeah.
show, I think, what, more than $45,000 of income,
Yeah. Yep.
85% of your Social Security benefit will be taxed at whatever your tax bracket is. So it's
Yeah.
good to know that this isn't a tax-free benefit.
Right. Right. That's fair. And maybe in the realm of taxes, one of the maybe potentially unintended consequences. I think it's called IRMA, but that stands for income related monthly adjustment amount. And all that means is Medicare is going to look back at your tax return from 2 years ago and say, if you earned over a certain amount, then here's the premium that you're going to pay to be on Medicare once you're over the age of 65. And it's a sliding scale, right? There's just the standard, here's the monthly premium for Medicare. But once a married couple filing jointly is over $212,000 of adjusted gross income, essentially, those premiums will start to increase. And there are several layers to that, but that could be an unintended consequence of, well, I'm going to continue to work and I'm going to start my Social Security benefit at the same time. A couple years from now, that may have the impact of, that's great, but now I'm going to pay much more for my Medicare premiums because I was earning over that limit. So just another little caveat to keep in mind and to try to plan for.
So maybe here's the takeaway, unless you have other things you wanna kinda hit on. Uh, big picture here, this whole Social Security decision, this is why you do planning. There is a
Hmm.
full financial picture here of all the things we mentioned: work, relationships, savings, taxes, all of it. And we didn't mention any of the personal preferences on here's what matters most to me on family
Yeah.
legacy plans, what I value. So it's
Yeah.
really important, you know, to get this decision right, especially knowing that it's essentially an irrevocable decision.
Yeah. Yeah. And this, I mean, we've often said it, right? Planning is not a one size fits all idea. This is a perfect example of, yeah, there's no way that this can be a very general, here's what you should do if you are this age. Like that, it just doesn't exist. Cause like you said, you can talk about the different factors, but those different factors are going to be influenced by the person and their preferences and what they value. Like you just said, that perfect example of, but if I start Social Security, because I can't pass that to my kids, but I want to pass something to my kids, then maybe I should start Social Security earlier and preserve my assets. Just something as simple as that, right? I want to leave something to my kids can change the whole claiming strategy. So yeah, this is not a one size fits all idea. And as maybe we pointed out, it can get very complicated very quickly. There's a lot of moving pieces that are interacting here. Nothing
Yeah.
happens in a vacuum.
I'd love to see what the prompt in a Google search or with AI
Oh my
is
goodness.
for somebody to get
Ooh.
the response because you'd have to be putting
Yeah.
in a lot of inputs to get the personal advice that you need there. So maybe the
Ooh, yeah.
takeaway is, get a human involved.
That's a good idea.
All right, my friend. Appreciate this. Until next
All
time.
right. Yeah. Talk to you then.
Hey everyone, Adam and I really appreciate you tuning in. Please note that the opinions we voiced in the show are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific recommendations for any individual. To determine which strategies or investments may be most appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, your accountant, and financial advisor or tax advisor prior to making any decisions or investing. Thanks for listening.